birthday. Today we're going to be talking about HEIR by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in her Throne of Glass series out of 6 until about 2 days from now, which then it will be out of 7. There is some other books that go along with it, some novellas and stuff like that, but the main series has 7 full books, and this is the third. This is the month of Sara, just because everybody's been prepping for the last book in this series, so I've been trying to catch up. If you want to watch my first 2 book chats, I'll link them down below for the first 2 books in this series. There's not a whole lot I can tell you about the book without spoiling you, but I'll try to give you a little bit of a synopsis. The story follows the main character, Selena, and her journey in a high fantasy world created by Sara, because she is the bomb, and just kind of going through her life and kind of picking teams. I know that is so general, but I really cannot tell you much more than that, especially with it being the third book. Clearly, as we all know, the deeper you get, the harder it is to give a general synopsis without giving spoilers if you have not read any part of this series. So, I give this book a very high A-. I thought this book was great. The character development in it was a little bit better than it was in the last book, just because I do think there was some obvious separation in this book of the characters. For the people that have read it, there are some people that have been together this entire time and they are separated, so you really get to know some of the people a little bit deeper on their own and see kind of the personalities that they have. So I really appreciated that, and then the world just grew in this book. It expanded drastically, and so that is why I'm giving this a very high A-. And so, if you have not read this book and do not want to be spoiled, do not watch any further. But before you leave, subscribe down below and go ahead and give this a thumbs up, just because I know that you would like this if you watch the whole thing. So go read, come back later so you can chat with us about this book, and I'd love for you to sound off in the comments below once you come back, obviously. But until then, I need you to leave unless you don't, if you don't care to be spoiled, that's on you. But if you don't want to be spoiled, leave now and come back later and chat with us, okay? Because you will be spoiled. Bye. Bye, people that don't want to be spoiled. Alright guys, let's get into this book. Oh my god. I want to first of all say, before I give any kind of review, I got my notes here. They're smaller just because, you know how I usually have my big green pad. I could not do that this time because it would just too much and the video would have been too long. So I just want to preface this by saying first that I knew about Manon and Rowan before reading the second and third book. So my perspective on the situations and those specific characters that are in those situations is gonna be skewed from the average reader, just because I don't know what it would have been like to read these books and not already known of their existence, because I have people that are close to me that have already finished. So I already knew somewhat about them, so keep that in mind when I am giving you my thoughts and opinions and feelings on the characters and the situations that they get themselves in, because I already do know about them and generally what their capacity is going to be in this series, generally speaking, so keep that in mind. Okay, so first of all, we all know that there is these like 3 different storylines, and the first one we're going to start with is Manon. Now, I was warned about her storyline and was told to just power through it. One, my best friend that really encouraged me to read this along with my sister-in-law said that I would love Manon in the end because I remind her of Manon. And so I really tried really hard to stick with Manon's character, but it was a rough one for me, guys. It was a rough one. So we start out with, of course, finding out that Manon is a Blackbeak witch, and that there is the Blackbeaks, the Yellow Legs, and the Blue Bloods. I think I'm getting that right. This is like the best I've ever done on remembering anything. So it starts out of her being heartless, and I'm like, I don't know. I always appreciate a different balance in characters, where I think that Selena is like a good middle ground, whatever kind of character, where she isn't fully good, she's not fully bad, good middle. Where then there's Dorian, where you feel always like he's like a little baby. And you just like feel like he's always trying to do the right thing. There's Kale, that is always like, seems like he's trying to do the right thing, but it seems like he's always doing the wrong thing. And so you get a good variety of characters. So I was excited about having like a perspective from somebody that wasn't necessarily good. So I was really excited about that. Then you find out that the witches have made a deal with the king, and I'm like, oh Lord, he's gonna screw y'all over. Like, I just didn't understand. So then he's like, I've created these dragons, these dragon puppies. So that was one thing that I really thought, you know, was important for Manon. And I liked that when the dragon got brought in, that it kind of brought a little bit more humanity to her. She ended up picking the underdog, because the underdog was like badass. So I think that's like some type of representation to her personality and how she feels sometimes. And so just the process of her working with her dragon and all that stuff, I think its name is Braxis, is like really sweet, just because you're like seeing her heart thaw pretty much. And so that was interesting. If you're a fan of Throne of Glass and Game of Thrones, you never know if you're looking at fan art of Manon or Dany. I thought that was super funny, just because I watched Game of Thrones for the couple, you know, first seasons, did not read the books, but like I still got the reference. I was like, I understand. Also, her grandmother is like the worst. I really do think that what the, there's like the good witches, what that good witch said before she like slit her throat was so true about, at least for Manon, that it's like they breed these witches to be heartless, that they're not born that way, just because her grandmother is just like the worst. And so I'm sure that's going to come into play in the next 4 books. But my biggest thing is now, so got through all the chapters with her. It was a struggle just because it feels so irrelevant. I'm very interested to see how Sara brings all that together, and whenever she's going to meet the rest of them and come into play or whatever. I have a little bit of some information on a possible connection with a specific character, and so I'm very interested to see like when that's all going to come together, how it's going to come together, because I see her butting heads with literally everyone. So I think that's going to be like super cool, and cannot wait to see that. Okay guys, this is going to be a long one. I'm sorry. Let's keep on moving. So the second storyline is that of Dorian, Kale, and Adion. I'm probably saying that wrong. I apologize. Y'all know I can't pronounce, spell, anything. Half the time I don't even know the names. So we start out, got my notes here. We start out with Adion showing up. And you're like, what the heck is going on? He's super cocky. I was really excited. I get excited about anything that's different in the book. Even if it's a character I'm like, he's the worst. I get excited just because it's like, it spices it up. It gives the story some, like, oomph. So, Kale clearly finds out that Adion actually is working with the rebels, and he, you know, doesn't like the king. He's just doing what he's got to do to eventually overthrow him, which... thank God. That would have been a big problem if he wasn't. And so then they start trying to work together. Kale just like keeps on getting worse. Every sentence I read of him, I'm just like, oh, how did I ever think you were the greatest? It's just bad. What makes it bad is he's not just the worst. I would rather him just be the worst. This like lukewarm personality and decisions irks me. Just be bad if you're going to be bad. Be good if you're going to be good. Stop thinking you're the morality police. Anyways, so then Dorian starts this relationship with the healer that's always there, Sorsha, I think her name is. And you know that she's writing those letters to somebody. I was like, either she is bad or she's part of the rebellion. I assumed the worst always, so I thought she was going to end up turning on Dorian. Made me very nervous that he was like sharing all of his magic knowledge and everything with her, and then he's letting her like feed him potions. That made me very, very skeptical. I was very, very worried about that. So between the rebels and Chaol and Aedion, they figure out that the towers are the 3 points at which the king, like, I keep on using the word abolished. He just like did away with magic, which I thought that part was interesting, but honestly I was more focused on the third storyline that I haven't got to yet, but we'll get to that. So what I thought was crazy is the first thing I'm surprised they didn't just immediately think, okay, what do we do to get these down? Like, I don't understand why that wasn't their initial thing, but we get to that later on. So, of course, they all think that they're playing sneaky sneaks and they're doing so good and all that different other kind of stuff until all 3 of them get called to the king's chamber, which I'm assuming just like never happens, meaning all 4 of them get called up there. And of course the king knows something's going on, and what does he do? He kills Sorsha, or whatever her name is, because he figures out or finds out from one of her HEIR witch ladies, I guess she's not technically a witch, but you get what I'm saying, like a healer, that she is the one that's been writing to the rebellion. She's been writing to Ren, giving him information, and he beheads her, gets one of his little minions to behead her in front of everybody, and shooketh we were. Then Aedion decides, you know what, I'm going to fall on the sword for everybody because it's going to be most plausible that I'm the worst, so I'm just going to say that it was really me and that Chaol and Dorian had nothing to do with it, which Dorian really didn't. So he does all that, makes a big spectacle. The king doesn't even kill him. He's like, oh no, I'm going to use you as bait and make Celaena come. Obviously, she's going to want to come save you. I'm going to lure her back here. So Aedion does all of that. Then what does Chaol at the very end decide to do? After everyone has made it where he would be a perfect inside man, still see what's going on, he decides to finally, after 3 books, tell the king how he feels. And I'm like, man, that made what Aedion did like completely pointless. Like, you could have just kept your mouth shut. You finally decided to have a voice like at the worst time. To me, that was just like super selfish. He should have just like went along with what Aedion said, acted like he was still the whatever of the guard, and gone about his business, and then been able to help from the inside. So now there's no inside man. They have no inside man, because then as soon as that happens, what do? They slap one of them freaking collars on Dorian, and that is going to be bad because he has powers, he has raw magic, and now he has one of those flipping collars on him. So we know that like this next book is going to be complete and utter madness. And what does Chaol do? He runs off. I'm so focused on Chaol. I'm so sorry. He just like bugs me to death, and really it's just because I feel so stupid about it. So we end their part with Dorian with one of those magic collars, Chaol running for his life, Aedion down in the, what are they called, dungeon, and Sorsha with her head literally chopped off. Okay, I want y'all to know that I have no notes on this part. I'm going to show you. Look at the bottom of this page. No notes, because I can't. I cannot. The third storyline was that of Celaena, which she's not Celaena. She's Aelin. What? She's the Lost Queen. It is nuts. So she's been sent overseas to a different country to kill the rulers, and the first scene in the book is her completely trashed on a rooftop, and I was like, yes, this is what she would be doing with nobody else around. So I loved it. Keep in mind, like I said before, I already knew about Rowan. So one of the first scenes, she talks about there being this like some type of bird. I don't know if she says specifically what type of bird, but that the bird had like a silver tail, and I already knew it was Rowan. And I was like, oh, so he comes into this book real quick. So he's been following her. So they meet up in this alley, and he's like, come with me. And she just follows him because it's kind of a trap that she wants to be led into, I'm assuming. So They go all the way to this pretty much post in between where all the mortals and humans lived and where all the fae live. And she finds out when she gets there, after Rowan literally, by the way, Rowan, of course, as y'all know, is back in his human form, does not talk to her the entire way there. And I was like, I was warned that this was going to be a slow burn, but slow burn, I ain't had nothing on this relationship. Gets there, talks to Maeve, which, by the way, can we already talk about that? How transparent is this hoe? Like, I'm so over her already, like, and I know that it's just gonna keep on getting worse. So, you find out that this is all just like pretty much a checkpoint, if you will, to make sure, to see if she can advance, if she is worthy enough to advance to actually coming to the main city where the Fae are. So, she spends time at this post, and it's Rowan's job to teach her how to use her magic, because keep in mind, as soon as she got, you know, out of where she was before, because I can't remember what any of the names of anything is, because I'm awesome at being, you know, a YouTuber. It was wild. I loved that entire thing, because they just like were so mad at each other all the time, and I love that. I relate to that type of like relationship and chemistry, if that makes sense. And so I thought their back and forth was so great. And there was a couple times that like you could tell he pushed too far or did something that put them in danger that he was not prepared for, and I was like, oh, my bad. Like the thing with where they were in the cave with the pond and the crazy snake thing came out, and that's how she ended up getting the ring and the sword. I don't think that he understood that. I don't think that was his original plan. So I do love all the other characters that were in that, meaning I think Luca is his name, because she has to do kitchen duty, which is like hilarious. But the scene that changed it all for me, that was like, wow, this is really going to turn into something different, is when she finally left and was like, I'm done, I'm over it. To me, that was her changing point. I knew that she really wasn't like done, and I knew he wasn't going to let her leave. And then they run into the skinwalkers, and he bites her to make her change. Like, wait, no, that was a different time. That was a different time. When he bites her the first time to make her change, because it took me a while to understand that, like, how he has different forms and all Fae have a different form. It took me a while to understand that human was her form. But I loved when they were in that, like, I think they were in like a tree trunk, and he was like, if you do not, you know, switch, if you do not, what do you call that? If you do not shift, like, we will both die. And so it was wild that, like, then he realized that, like, that really was her motivation. It wasn't even herself, that she doesn't care about herself. It was more about, like, she was going to get him killed. And he's like, how many ever years old. But even though they hated each other and were in this back and forth all the time, she still didn't want him to die because of her. Loved that. Thought that was great. Thought it was great when she, like, runs off the cliff and then turns around and is like, and like blasts him with the fire, like some kind of like Fast and Furious action movie. Great day, Sara. Greatly appreciate it. So then they get, you know, back, and she's like, okay, I'm not gonna leave. Loved that. I just loved their whole dynamic. But one thing that I thought was weird, something about when he then just moved her up into his room, seems strange to me, kind of, just because I didn't really understand, and I don't think it was explained a lot, but I think that was the point, that it was very casual. They find out that the creatures that she had seen in the castle before she left are there on that island, which I completely forgot was told from one of the other storylines in the book, that the king was sending them over there. I totally slipped my mind, totally forgot. And I bet you I'm not the only one. But then they have to figure out how they're going to battle these things out, and it becomes a complete and utter mess. Now they are closer. She is learning how to use her powers better. They still have that good back and forth, her and Rowan do, but then I don't know. It's just like she has more control, and they've really bonded. Like, if anybody is a Cassandra Clare fan, it's almost like they started to become parabatai-ish, but very faintly. You would have to kind of read into it to guess that. So then, of course, when they find out, okay, we're going to have to get ready for this battle, she's like, call your friends, call your little cronies, or whatever they call themselves, call Maeve, get her to send people for help, because the entire post really is a whole bunch of demi-fae that don't really have the powers and weren't allowed to then move on to the next step. They weren't worthy. And so those are the only people that end up being there, because of course Maeve's the worst and doesn't send anybody. And at the very last minute, his friends show up, and then it's just her left to fend off, you know, these soldiers. And I think it was 4, I forgot what they're called, Val, whatever, the ones that are actual monsters against her. So she'd ran into him earlier, and I really do think Rowan felt really bad about that and just didn't know because of his reaction, like when he saw her scars on her back and felt so bad, and when she like burned herself out and everything and was really upset and judged, whatever. That whole thing just was too much for me to even process, because it just, I don't know, I almost want like more from Rowan's perspective, because I want to get in his brain and see what he's thinking more than we've been allowed to so far. So hopefully that'll be something in the future we get to see a lot more of. But when they separated, I just like, I was so worried. So when his friend showed up, I was like, this is going to be great. They're all going to be saved. You know, she's going to be fine. And then you find out like, oh, no, this isn't going to work. Those monsters take her to the depth of her soul, and she goes through all of it and then lets it go. And then she's just, talk about a freaking phoenix, man. Like, that was her phoenix moment. I was so excited. It was so good. And Rowan's friends are holding him back, which... will he forgive him for that? Will he not? I don't know. How are they supposed to know? Like, they don't know what's going on. And then when she needs more power and he, like, bonds with her because they're whatever Sarah's version of parabatai is, where their magic was, like, they hinted towards it before when she talked about she could feel her magic playing with his, like, subconsciously, like, almost like as their magic were, like, different beings. And so I kind of assumed that's what was going to be it. So then he like gave her his power, and oh, so good. So good. So of course then they end up getting out alive somehow. It takes her forever to, you know, get her energy back and all that jazz. Oh, and she did the thing with the water droplet. So she does have a little bit of water power in her. So we'll see how that happens. So of course then Maeve was like, y'all got to come up here and explain yourselves. So they show up, and she is the worst. Just the worst. Why is she so awful? She's the worst. And she is like talking to Aelin, is like, girl, you're gonna bow. And she's like, I'm a queen. I don't bow to anybody. I was like, yes. Sarah's whole, like, I don't bow to anyone, like, in all of her series is just so, love it. It's like a common theme, like, I don't bow to anybody. Okay, first of all, second of all, third of all, don't do that. And then she like throws all this stuff from the past in Maeve's face and is like, what you're going to do is you're going to revoke your blood oath with Rowan. Which that made me so nervous that whole time. I was like, okay, this blood oath is for real, like. And then in front of everybody when she couldn't do anything, then he wants to then immediately like do a blood oath to her. And I was like, oh, please do not do that. Like, that's going to end up being messy. Do not do that. But what? Who knows? End up doing that, so he's free, but now he's attached to her. And then she's like, I got to go back because they got my cousin, so I got to go. So that's pretty much how everything ends. And I'm just like baffled and don't know what to do. My camera's trying to die. And this has been already the longest video. And I know that none of this made any sense, but the book was so good. I cannot wait to finish. I'm just trying so hard to get through it. Like, it's crazy. And so hopefully I'll have another book chat here soon on the next book. I think it's called Queen of Shadows. Let me check real quick. Queen of Shadows, yes, because I've already started it. Shh, don't tell anybody. I'm the worst. But I will have that uploaded soon, so go ahead and subscribe down below if you've made it this far, because I'm being really good about making videos. I'll also have a little small vlog from a day trip that me and my in-laws took yesterday. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll have all my social media down in the description, along with any of my other book chats from this series. And that's it for today, guys. Leave comments down below and let me know what you thought about this book and what you think is going to happen in the rest of the series. And I want to chat with y'all about it. But that's it. And until next time, don't forget to do what you dig. Bye.